Welcome, everyone. I'm Jennifer Redfern. I'm the director of the documentary program. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about how this is going to go. So I have I think it's about a 10-minute presentation, and I'm going to share, I think, a lot of things that you probably would like to know about the mission of the program, the courses, the core curriculum, and then some stories about students and alums. And then I'll open it up. It'll be informal, and you can ask. I'm here to answer your questions. So in addition to teaching and supporting emerging filmmakers, I'm also dedicated to making documentary films that shine a light on pressing social and environmental issues. I bring 17 years of filmmaking experience to this program to help students tell powerful stories. Here you'll find the guidance, support, and inspiration to create cinematic and engaging films that have real-world impact. The documentary program is a vibrant community dedicated to fostering courageous storytellers who combine the principles of fact-based journalism with cinematic storytelling. Our mission is to build a supportive, inclusive environment where emerging voices find their footing and create films that bring us into incredible new worlds, hold power to account, and expose injustice. By empowering students with excellent training in craft, industry connections, and a passion for real-world impact, we prepare the next generation of filmmakers to shape a more informed, connected, and compassionate world. We focus on creativity, community, and collaboration. So to start, I wanted to share this video with you. This is a short piece that showcases work from the program over the past 50 years. And so what you'll see in this is films that have been made throughout the program. So you'll see some of the older films from decades ago, and some of the newer films.
We've always had fires here, but not at this magnitude and not this many.
When my son passed away in that jail, I know he told them, y'all gonna have to deal with my mama. Trust me, he said that.
Y allí nos dijeron, y ya no podemos brindarle servicio.
How many of you have ever acted like a bully?
There were gay people, and we all know them, and they were all in the closet. When Randy came, he changed all that.
I'm pretty well recognized around the country as the leading reporter on the AIDS epidemic.
Comecei a trabalhar com aproximadamente uns 12 anos de idade, sendo que nesse tempo eu já comecei a me descobrir como trans.
They're very tiny and yet so complex.
The phosphate mining industry has its fingers in so many things.
I think the game seeks to synthesize the most palatable aspects of war.
It may be difficult for people to understand, but as a photojournalist, my first instinct was to make a photograph.
See Kevin sink, into a dark fugue.
The Panthers platform made 10 demands, including an immediate end to police brutality and the murder of black people.
Los incendios trajeron a la superficie estos problemas.
We have no hospital, period. It's gone.
Então, muitas vezes, o meu primeiro bom dia é a notícia de que uma pessoa trans foi assassinada.
I need answers, and I need them soon. How do your officers feel? Are they still working by any chance?
Women had to have been doing more than gathering and tending babies.
It gets really hard for a Native to fight against the system.
People need to be asked those hard questions.
You better be ready to stand.
And the only power that journalism has is when it tells the truth.
So that gives you a sense of the range of work that's been produced over the years. And like I said, that's from, decades ago to some of our more recent alums. This is what the core curriculum looks like. So we have first year in the fall, a course called J282, Introduction to Visual Storytelling. And people come in with visual storytelling skills, but this is an opportunity for us to help you strengthen that skills by focusing on your lighting skills, your composition, framing, how you're thinking about filming scenes and interviews. And in this course, you'll have an opportunity to produce 2 short films. And it culminates in a final project where students showcase the visual storytelling skills that they learned throughout the semester. In J283, that's in the spring, that's an intermediate video storytelling course. And in this course, we refine your visual storytelling skills. So we introduce more advanced editing, more advanced camera work, more advanced storytelling and reporting and audio skills. And you'll produce 2 projects that encourage creative risk-taking and cinematic storytelling within a visual journalism framework. And then the documentary history and research course, that's also in the spring, and that's where we dive into the history of documentary, ethics, while analyzing key films and movements from the 1920s to the present. In this course, we also prepare you to start doing research for your thesis film. So we talk about the research method, and the course culminates in a concept paper, which is a paper that you write. It's an early pitch for your thesis film. In year 2, we have the year-long documentary workshop that happens in both the fall and the spring. It's a year-long capstone course where students research their thesis film, do pre-production, produce, film, and edit their films over the course of a year. And then in addition to that, we have a specialized course in advanced cinematography and sound. And so that's a course that gives you an opportunity, again, to strengthen your shooting, your sound recording, and your filmmaking techniques. The course culminates in, there it is, a public showcase at BAM PFA where friends, family, colleagues come to celebrate your achievements. So we do a big screening at the end of the year where we watch all of the films in a theater, which is amazing because you get to see all of your hard work then projected onto the big screen. To give you some more details of what this looks like, in the second year, in the summer, you do internships, and then that's when you start to research your thesis films and prepare to pitch in the fall. In the first class in the fall in the documentary workshop is when you pitch your film ideas. And then we workshop your concepts together. We work on advanced storytelling and skills building, and we do advanced research and project development. Once that's your story's in place, then we start to move into pre-production where you start to plan to get out into the field to film. And then we also have plenty of opportunities, especially in the fall, to meet with guests and to connect with the field during festivals and award screenings. And then in the late fall and the winter break is when people start to shoot. So you develop your film in the early fall, you develop your story, and then you're ready to start filming in the late fall and over the winter break. And you're also crewing on your colleagues' films, so you have this opportunity to both direct a film, but also to gain additional experience and skills on your colleagues' films. And then during this break, you're also getting ready for the editing process, which we dive into in the spring. And we start right away, first class, you come in with your assembly cut, and we work with you throughout the semester to refine your edit to get you to fine cut, where you can have that experience of going to BAMFA and showing your film on the big screen. We also do some advanced post-production skill building with you. So we talk about how to work with music, how to work with composers. We do advanced editing aesthetic classes. And then as you get closer to finishing your pieces, we start to move into a discussion about distribution and audience engagement. So that's what the year looks like. The documentary workshop also pairs really well with photojournalism classes, our climate lab, our new climate lab for those of you who are interested in environmental storytelling or stories around climate change, and investigative reporting. And then the earlier classes pair really well with our travel classes. So those earlier classes that you take in your first year, you can pair those with a travel class and make a film while traveling somewhere, if that's something you'd like to do. I also wanted to show you, this is more recent work that's come out of the program, so you get a sense of, you've seen sort of the 50-year arc, but what does more recent work look like? So here's an example of a trailer from one of our years.
1, 2, 3.
It's the haves against the have-nots.
We've had bees in my family for 3 generations. It just gets in your blood and you want to do it. You don't stop.
It's like there's no accountability at all.
I have seen the way that they shuffle them right into the prison pipeline.
From California tonight, a picture of how the nation's largest university system may be transformed now that its affirmative action program is going to be ended.
It's hard to imagine that it got worse, that she got thinner.
There was a ton of stuff going on behind closed doors.
Who's doing something about this?
I don't care what you think about us not living on the bay. We're living. And if you're going to make us homeless, do something about it. Provide.
When an officer takes a person's life and they have children, they not only take that person from that child, but they take that child's sense of safety.
Unfortunately, bees no longer are self-sustaining in this world, which is tragedy.
I continue to be disheartened that oppositions really believes that we're in a post-racial society.
Get off that boat! You have no authority out here!
I think I'm really lucky to have my life back again.
I think about the American dream. I want my daughter to have full access to that.
Okay, so that gives you a sense of some more recent work coming out of the program. And let me just find my spot here. I'm going to move a little bit faster so I have plenty of time for your questions. So some of the highlights from the program is we work in a small focused cohort up to 12 students annually, which allows for personalized instruction and mentorship. The student, we prioritize hands-on experience and active learning. So we're really doing a lot of this workshopping and this skill building together in a hands-on environment. And the student experience has been enriched by dozens of guest filmmakers over the past 4 years and other experiences. So for example, just to give you a few highlights, we've had lots of, I would say even, dozens of filmmakers here and then opportunities to meet them at festivals. But to highlight a few, Madeline Anderson, a trailblazer who holds the distinction of being the first Black woman to produce and direct a televised documentary film. She was 98 the year that she visited us. Carla Gutierrez, an Emmy-nominated documentary editor and director known for her work on acclaimed films such as RBG and Julia. And in 2024, she made her directorial debut with Frida, which premiered at Sundance. She came, she visited us virtually to talk about editing. And then Yancey Ford, an acclaimed director and producer, recognized for his impactful work, including his debut film, Strong Island, which received an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. So those are just the kind of, we have guests throughout the year, throughout the 2 years. There are also plenty of opportunities in the Bay Area for you to connect with documentary filmmakers. So we have collaborations with SF Film and BAMFA, where there are opportunities for you to go to screenings, to meet filmmakers throughout the year. We also, the whole 2 years culminates in something that we recently launched a couple of years ago called a Distribution Summit, where we host guests from the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Guardian, and SF Film, who come and share their deep expertise with our students and also talk about next steps, like what are you going to, how can you get your film out into the world, and how can you think about engaging audiences with it, and how should you be thinking about your next steps in terms of career. Few highlights. Innocence, Skylar Glover and Goran Zanetti's scene here was one of just 5 films to launch the LA Times short doc series. Kristen Huang won the Student Academy Award with her, this is just all over the past 4 years, with her stunning film about climate change and migratory beekeepers. Clara Mokri and Katie Bernstein, you saw some of their footage in the film on the boats. Their documentary, Anchored Out, about housing and inequality in Richardson Bay, premiered at Mill Valley and was nominated for an IDA Student Award and picked up by The New Yorker. More recently, our student at the time, Maya Overstreet, her film, To Be Invisible, about two mothers struggling to regain custody of their children, premiered at Sundance and was published by The New Yorker. And then this is us at Sundance celebrating. And then finally, Alfredo Torres, his film Jardins premiered at the Telluride Film Festival. So our students and alumni not only make exceptional films and produce groundbreaking work, they're also shaping the future of the field. Carrie Lozano, one of our alums, is leading a team as CEO at ITVS. Pete Nix, a celebrated director, is also the co-founder and head of nonfiction at Proximity Media in Oakland. And Jason Spingarnkopf, who founded OpDocs and served as the director of original documentary programming at Netflix, is one of our alums, and he joined us last year as a professor and Knight Chair of Climate Journalism. So lots of things to celebrate. Nellie will, I think, go through or has gone through the application process. There are a few additional things that we ask you to do for the documentary program. So we ask that you include a video sample with very clear credits. So we want to know what your role was on that sample. And then we have some additional questions that we ask you about what inspired you to become what inspired your interest in documentary filmmaking, and why specifically, if you decide to apply, why you're interested in pursuing documentary in a journalism program rather than, say, a film school. And then we'd like to know about the cameras and editing software and other tools that you've used in your work. If you have some experience in the field, say you've worked as an associate producer, but you don't necessarily have the technical credits, we would like you to apply, and we would consider those on a case-by-case basis. So I wanted to leave you with a couple of words from some former students. This is Cesar and Bria, who are looking very cold here, filming in the Midwest, but happened to just arrive in the middle of a storm. Before coming to Berkeley, the idea of making a documentary seemed impossible. Berkeley journalism made that dream come true. And Bria, it's hard to encapsulate in a few short sentences just how much this program has given to me, but it's not hyperbole to say that it has completely changed my life. So that's our goal: life-changing experiences, community, creativity, and collaboration. And now I would love to hear from you. I have, we have plenty of time for questions, so I'd love to hear your questions. And if there's anyone on Zoom who has questions, I'd love to respond to those too.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. Round of applause for that. I mean, it's just such an honor to just be near Jennifer. So we'll give an opportunity for the folks in here, but there was a question that came up into the chat asking what are the possibilities between the documentary concentration and climate journalism and reporting on the climate, and if there's any opportunities, this is an additional question, for exploring new medias like 360-degree video or VR that you might see in the future of the documentary track.
Yes, both great questions. So there's definitely an exciting opportunity, an overlap between our new climate program and documentary. And so we have, there will be a second year climate lab. And so if you were interested in both, you would go into the climate lab and you would go into the documentary workshop. And then Jason and I would both advise you. So he would be advising you in the climate lab and I would be advising you in the workshop. The other really exciting thing that's happening is that Jason has made connections with people across campus who have field stations around the world who are doing really important and exciting work around climate and the environment. And so there will be opportunities to also connect with other folks on campus who are doing really exciting work.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting. Our College of Natural Resources has stations all the way to New Zealand, to Réunion, and with France. So there's great opportunities for that. Anyone in the audience have a question?
Oh, I didn't answer
go
the
ahead.
second
the
part
second
of that,
part.
which I almost forgot about too. So I think, so right now we don't have a VR class. I do think, it might be something we would offer in the future, but we don't have that right now. But I do think that it's, if you're interested in that type of storytelling, it's a really interesting area to explore. And there might be, there are classes that we have, like for example, this year we have a new Future of Storytelling classes. So there are new classes that come up every year, but we do not have that right now. I just want to be clear about that. A
great way that I'd say some students have the opportunity to explore these new forms of media would be through their internships, for example, if they find a location where VR 360 is being experimented on. So I definitely growth and progress. So we had a question over here in the audience for this.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for doing this. My question is mainly around funding and resources that are accessible to doc students. You briefly talked about, for example, the traveling class. Could you speak a little bit more about, for example, equipment that we'd have access to, and as well as the final year after you make that project out? How does the distribution process work in terms of how much, holding by the hands?
Yes. Yeah. All great questions. So you will have access to a camera package, and that or I would say an equipment package, which includes the Canon C200. It includes all the audio equipment you need. It includes lighting. It includes tripods. So yes, so you won't need to bring any equipment. You won't need to rent any equipment. We have a entire package that you can take out here. In terms of the travel classes, my understanding is there's an application to get in, and each year it changes. The destination changes, but I don't. I'm not an expert on the travel classes.
I can help you with that, Jennifer.
Thank you.
So for the travel classes, every year in the spring semester, there's a different offering of travel classes. And that's dependent on a few things. Primarily, it's on instructors and ability to travel to these locations. Historically, we've had students travel to India, China. This upcoming semester, we have only one travel class that's offered that's going to Latin America by the looks of it, Colombia, Panama, and the budget for that is set for the number of students. So there's only 10 students allowed into that class, of which the university or the graduate school actually will be providing travel compensation and costs covered to be able to go out. They travel during our spring semester or spring break. During the spring semester, and they're working on that project for the entire semester. So that's how costs go into that. And when it comes to funding your education, thankfully, we've received a very large donation to be able to provide more financial aid for students. A few opportunities that are provided are the Dean's Fellowship Program, of which I'm one of the recipients, where your entire tuition and fees are covered, plus a $10,000 stipend. Yeah. It's thankfully like donations and like the school doing great work, like Jennifer's classes, like showcasing that a 2-year program that's really focusing on students is worth the education. But there's also like other fellowships like the Jubilee, and you will be able to provide the information on your application, what financial circumstance you're in and what you'd like to be considered for financial aid. When it comes to funding, because we are a public school in California, a lot of our funding is tied to California students, but that doesn't limit us to be able to provide funding for U.S. students that are out of state. When it comes to international students, we highly encourage them to look at outside resources because, once again, the public element of our university and of the grad school means that a lot of those funds are dedicated to students within the United States. All right. So, yeah.
Thank you. That was great.
Hi. So I have a question about this. Was I think briefly touched on in the presentation of for this new round of applicants. What kind of students you're looking for? What kind of experience and backgrounds are you hoping those students have who are coming into the program? What's your ideal student that you want to work with for the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. So I think the main thing, and I'll go back here is One is students who come in with some experience, because we want the cohort to come in with relatively the same level of experience and some experience, so that we can help you do graduate level work. We're not starting from the beginner's level, but we're starting with some experience. And then I think it's this first question, just really understanding why you're interested in documentary filmmaking, what it is about documentary filmmaking that speaks to you, and how you decided to pursue this field. I think is important for us to understand where you're coming from and if this is a good fit. And then this other question is, I think, really important. The second question: why have you chosen to pursue documentary filmmaking in a journalism school, as opposed to, say, you could go to a film school, you could go to an art school, you could go to a training program, a media training program, but why specifically in a journalism school? To make sure that, again, that it's a good fit, that you're interested in gaining that journalism background as well, and then applying that to your filmmaking. Because there are other I showed you the core curriculum for the documentary program, but there are other journalism specific classes that other required classes that you'll take throughout the first year.
And maybe to dive deeper into this, Jennifer, we have a lot of our students who are finding out like documentary and applying into the documentary track. There's a preference that they have some experience with video editing.
Yes.
Is there a huge difference between the multimedia track that we have now and the documentary track that you think suits one applicant versus a different applicant?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So if you're interested in, say, gaining some visual storytelling skills, but not necessarily, going into documentary filmmaking as a career or doing a longer documentary, then there are opportunities in the multimedia program to develop those visual journalism skills. So we've split them so that it's, if you want to do documentary and you want to do documentary in a journalism school because you want that rigorous journalism training combined with cinematic storytelling, then the documentary track might be the right path for you. If you're more interested in, experimenting with a lot of different things and gaining a lot of different skills and putting that all which is equally exciting, putting that all together in, say, a multimedia package, then this other direction would be the better fit for you.
Any more questions? Right. Let's go over here with this gentleman right here, since he had his hand up.
Just going off of the video sample, what do you find more useful, like a sizzle reel of amalgamation of work portfolio, or like specific scenes or excerpts from projects?
When you're submitting a sample, I would prefer to see a project. I think a sizzle reel gives less information than a scene or a full project. And you could submit, a longer piece and say, please watch, if we're only watching an excerpt, please watch from this time code to this time code. But we're going to get a lot more out of a final piece or a scene than a sizzle reel.
Yeah, and make sure that within the application, you'll find that you'll be able to upload these video samples in the work sample area, and there's also another section for visuals. In the work sample area, you can provide the URL, so if it's on YouTube or something, provide that code and provide that description saying, like Jennifer had already mentioned, what you did, what you worked on, and if you would like to provide some context, this is a project that I worked on for my undergrad, etc. That's just to technical specifications of the application.
Hello. I was hoping you could talk a little more about the Climate Lab and whether it's specific to the doc track or if it's open to other tracks and if it's just second year.
Yes, so the Climate Lab is both in the first and second year. So there's an opportunity to take a class in the first year. There are also guest speakers throughout the year that are part of the climate initiative. And then in the second year, the Climate Lab it's not specific to the doc track. So in the Climate Lab will be audio students, narrative students, documentary students. How it intersects with doc is just that there are students in the Climate Lab and in documentary, and they're getting the benefit of because they're interested, say, in doing a thesis film about an environmental story or a story about climate change, they're getting the benefit of both workshops to develop their projects.
Hi. So just to follow up on the funding option you're talking about, is it specifically just for tuition, or is for the production, the money that needed for production as well?
I think you were speaking specifically about tuition.
Right. I was speaking tuition
Okay.
and fees. That's covering, at least from the university standpoint, everything regarding tuition, regarding your professional degree supplement, which is another thing that's provided in here. And for some students who are out of state, for example,
Gotcha.
also providing that fee. But when it comes to production, I think Jennifer can provide a little bit more on funding for that.
Yeah. So there is. Historically, there has been some funding, and that comes through various places. And one of those is the Awards and Grant Committee, and that's often for travel expenses. It can be for travel and production expenses. That funding comes from funds that the school raises. So it's not like every year everyone gets a certain allotment. It's just that there is funding available that you can apply for, and you can apply that funding to your thesis work.
Yes, because unlike other tracks, documentary production can be extremely expensive. And I wonder if there's classes that's helping us to sort of understand the skills that needed for crowdfunding, like asking for outside sources. Is it allowed? And when it comes to copyright, is it university property or it belongs to the filmmaker?
Yeah, it's so it belongs to the filmmaker, and there are other funding opportunities. Sometimes there's project specific. So right now we have some funding opportunities for folks who are interested in making films about. It's through the Center for Psychedelics. So there are some funding sources for very specific types of projects. In terms of we do go through a process where you put together a budget, you put together a proposal. So you go through a process that you would go through if you were, for example, approaching a production company or approaching ITVS, which is a big public media funder. So you'll learn that process. It's a little, because you're making the grant process outside of the school can take a long time. So it doesn't always work to then start thinking, oh, I'm gonna use this to raise grant money, which is often a long process, if that makes sense. Like, you'll learn the process, but it won't necessarily. You'll use those documents to apply for the funding that exists here. Yeah.
And we do have an amazing career advisor, Betsy Raitt, who she provides a lot of funding opportunities and grants, whether that's coming through the Academy Awards or through like the Emmys, stuff that students can use to apply for future projects. And it's not just limited for your time here at the school, but also available to alumni, so that they can still continue learning about grants and other funding opportunities for their projects.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we had investigative reporting program here yesterday, so I know some doc students might also be, there's overlap potential there with the investigative. So
Yes.
So potentially they might also get the resources of the investigative, which program when they're very used to applying for grants and additional funding through there too. So it really depends. There are so many funding opportunities, and there is support, from whether it's the faculty side or career development side or student services side, to help you know what the opportunities are and look like, and so that you're able to apply for those opportunities where relevant.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just floundering around. There's so many opportunities. Obviously our grad school, it's on you to also be proactive and ask, but everyone here is so helpful. Everyone wants you to succeed, and there are so many opportunities. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also just regularly building relationships with funders and publishers and coming up with unique combinations of publishers and funders. And so there are opportunities and new that already exist, and then new opportunities that we're building.
Yeah, I want to be aware of your time because I see this. I was like looking at so many questions.
I have a couple more questions. I have a couple more minutes.
Okay,
but I
great.
should just so I think you all heard, but I have a dentist appointment. So as soon as it's like 3:10, I need to run.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
We have one on Zoom talking
great.
about work sample. So this individual says that they shot a short documentary with their iPhone, but they're concerned that it's not to a professional level quality, but they feel like the contents of talking about poverty and education were really important to them. Is that a suitable form of work sample for you?
I mean, I definitely submit the work sample that you have. We will. So there are cameras that we work with in J282 and editing software that we work with in J282. So part of the assessment is assessing whether you have the skills to work to be able to then start in that class and work with that camera and that editing system. If this person has an opportunity to do a little more practice, that might be helpful. But definitely, I wouldn't say don't apply. I would say apply with the sample. And we'll evaluate it.
I kind of something that I always say to prospective students that ask, I always say, we want to see your highest quality level of work so we can see the highest, right, your capabilities at the highest level. So that is something when people are like, oh, I'm trying to select, which of course, if you only have like one or two, like if you have very few, but, and a lack of, then that's slightly different. But yeah, I think faculty always want to see, especially with the documentary track, again, it's that technical skill set. So obviously the highest level, work. And then the other place on your application, again, there's no, whether or not they may choose to go out of their way to click on those links, is up to the reviewer. But you can include that in your resume too. So if there's additional works that you feel like, oh, I really didn't, you can again add maybe a little bit of context or a quick descriptor and say, these are other pieces that maybe are of lesser quality, but are just as strong, or I feel emotionally whatever the story may be. So you can always add additional context. Of course, just be mindful that that might not be. Their timing is always something that's important to be mindful of.
Answer one more. Yeah.
It's a follow-up to that question.
Yes.
So for the work sample, thinking about the highest quality, speaking for like in reference to my personal portfolio, the high quality projects that I have are like corporate, and I was like an associate producer, but then there's projects that I like produced, shot and edited that I did in like a fellowship or independently and like maybe not as high quality. And I guess in terms of the difference in roles, like the difference in roles and then also the difference in quality, like which is more important?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So we want to see whatever's closest to documentary. And so if you've produced something it sounds like the personal work is closer to or is documentary. And then I think the important thing is just, and you can explain, you can share both samples and explain the different, just like you did now. I think that would be really helpful. And then also if you want to include certain time code, like please look at this, the beginning to minute 5, for example, and this will show XYZ. And then I think the other really important thing is we want to know what your credit is on the work that you're submitting as a sample. So we know, that you shot it, you edited it, you directed it, for example.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So to be respectful of Jennifer's time.